My name is Gillian McIntyre, and I was an interpretive planner at the AGO. And what that means is I worked on exhibitions, I would be a curator. And my job was to see what you have to do to make the art relevant and interesting to a broad audience. So that might be video, audio, sometimes augmented reality we tried, writing, and so on. So that is me, Priam.
Hello, everyone. So yeah, my name is Priam Givord. I'm pretty much sort of like a multifaceted person. I came from art school, industrial design, product design, automobile design, and I landed in video game engines because I wanted to do real-time stuff. And then more and more along the years, I still kept like this kind of, product design mentality. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of things we can do with VR, and I'm interested into serious VR. And so that's like sort of like one of the things that we're going to talk about today. For me, the angle of doing something in VR that's actually pretty serious and giving, making something a product reality for, museums, let's say. So, yep.
Next slide. So we both worked with a team. I project managed the AGO side of things. So we've got Sherry Phillips, conservator, who's here in the audience, who did masses of passionate work on this project. Adam Harris, who was Levine, who was a curator. Catherine Thompson, digital projects. Craig, photographer, and Matthew, media producer. So there was a whole team of people working at the AGO, and huge learning curve for everybody. And then we consulted with the National Maritime Museum in London, who we worked with before on our ship model collection, Simon Stevens. You want to talk about your team?
Yep. So my team is basically the sort of like the other opposite of the spectrum. So we worked with AGO on this project for about 3 years at this point, and we have a lead developer, Sean Guadron, who is actually on the floor. You can speak to. He's an Unreal developer, and his company is Let's Create Something Amazing. And you want to talk to this guy. We have these 3D modelers who are fantastic, called Pyramid Attack, and then Karen van der Borst, who did interface design, and Candice Dan, who also helped us a lot with the project submission. I'm the lead of the project. I am a maker, industrial designer, as you know. And so I basically held this thing with Gillian all along for these years.
So our first experiment was in 2016, we had an exhibition of prayer beads. So these are very tiny boxwood carved prayer beads for private devotion made in the 1500s that you'd open up, and there are these really fine carvings. Some of the stuff in there you couldn't even see, because there was one of Henry VIII and his wife, his then wife, behind a column. And you think, who made this and how did they make them? And I was put on this exhibition, and I thought, what am I going to do to engage a broad public with these tiny things? Then Anna Serrano, Priam's other half, knew Lisa Ellis, who was working in conservation at the AGO. And as part of us trying to figure out how these things were made, we had done some very fine CT scans. And Lisa and Anna, I think, were friends. And so Anna approached the AGO to say, could we possibly experiment with VR?
Mm-hmm. And then I got in the conversation, and basically what they were showing me is these incredible detailed scans. And I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the time we can do one of the VR tropes that, I hope to see at some point. This was 2016. I was like, I haven't seen that yet, really, which is, can we have this thing absolutely big, and can we walk through it? So, VR going into macro, right? And so basically we set up to do that.
I have to say, I was somewhat skeptical about what the so what would be of going inside these beads. And the AGO was very skeptical, but I said, well, what have we got to lose? I think Anna had some grant money at that point to do this, so why wouldn't we experiment this? Why not? I was quite impressed with what I saw with you and Anna. And so we did it.
So what happened here essentially is, a long, step, and as everybody knows who's pitching projects, is demo after demo, reaching the right people to show the demo to. So you got to do this quick and, and beautiful and working well. So I've got the models, and I put them into this platform named Touch Designer. I don't know if everybody is familiar with Touch Designer, but it's a juggernaut that people should take into account. It's incredible. It helps artists and designers and developers together to get things done very, very quickly. It's very powerful. All I had to do is pretty much dump the scans in there, put a few nodes together, and then suddenly it was rotating and it was 3D on my headset. So that's what I brought as demos. And we did like, I don't know, probably at the end of the day right now, after this project ended, we probably did like 150 demos, 200, whatever. It's nothing like the Void, but it's a ton when you have to attend them yourself by hand, right?
We did end up putting it into the exhibition because it was so good. So we had a few occasions when Joseph, I don't know if he's in the audience, was here helping people have this experience. And we had lineups. And I mean, my favorite memory was a group of nuns who came in and tried this and were so excited to be able to go behind Jesus's back in the prayer beads. So, I mean, it was just, and what I loved about it too, it was a really broad range of people, from very young to, people who were used to using VR, people, it was more new then. I loved it to engage people.
So if we can all take a moment and watch the video of this religious experience, I'm just getting it. This will give you an idea. Okay, so what you just saw there basically were objects that in the real world are probably 5 millimeters tall, and some of them are even way less, right? And so now you're able to explode this object into the different parts and basically just walk through it. In the real world, the VR installation was like 6 meters long. 6 meters long. And so it's sort of like an experience in itself.
Well, I already said that what was interesting was the range of people who were drawn to this. But as an interpretive planner working on exhibitions, what you want people to do is to look at the art or the object or whatever it is and interpret for themselves. What I loved was when people had finished the experience, then they sought out the bead. And that was common, to go and look at it, which was pretty amazing. And to be able to explore, we have things in cases, it's all precious, it's from the 1500s, you can't touch it. But to be able to sort of walk around it and see how it's carved, and to understand, to think of the 1500s, first you had to make your tools. Boxwood is very, very hard. You had to make you get light, you had to make your magnification. How did they do it? And this began to show people some of what went into making these wonderful objects. So we used to do a lot of visitor studying at the AGO, some of it would be cued, some uncued. We'd observe people, follow people, question people. That's how we learned what was happening, which is important. Otherwise, you just keep making the same mistakes.
Here we go.
Yes, the Thompsons, who were one of the big benefactors of the AGO, actually owned all the Boxwood collection, the prayer beads and so on. And they were never terribly keen on us doing much interpretation. They didn't really want labels on the wall. They wanted the art to speak for itself. But they really enjoyed what this VR did. And so Priam and I kept having lunch and thinking, we can't just have done that. We have to do something else. What else can we do? And we have at the AGO also from the Thompsons is a ship model collection, which Sherry, sitting there, worked on a lot. That was one of her responsibilities as a conservator. And, you know, we pitched to the AGO. We tried to get money to do this thing again.
Okay, so really quick story, but you know, as probably you may want to know, but if you work with institutions, it's a lot of pitching, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of meeting different people and key people. We did actually apply to VRTO as well. We didn't get the grant, and it's just a long backstory essentially. The proposal was pretty big. We did a lot of work on that too, and the Thompsons actually decided to pay for it. And so, but you know, that's not without a lot of precedent and a lot of work in the back. But obviously it does happen, and it happens like that.
I would say for Vive Arts that, you know, they had, I think they did Modigliani, which was at Tate. They were more interested in big exhibitions in museums that would get a lot of publicity, whereas the ship models in the basement of the AGO weren't as sexy for them. It's now called the Concourse, by the way, so maybe it's sexier. So one way and another, we got permission from the powers that be in the AGO, and Stefan, our director, went and met Priam in his studio.
Yeah. To get him there took a while.
and it was decided that what we would next do would be a ship model.
So basically this gets us to one ship model specifically, right?
It's a gorgeous ship model. It's quite large. And ship models were made for various reasons. I mean, this particular ship model from 1775 was actually made at the same time as the Warship. It was a 52-gun, fourth rate of the line, I never get the title properly, made for the British Navy. And actually it was made in time to help with the American War of Independence, which, as an English person, I'm sorry to say we lost. And Bristol didn't do terribly well. But so we had this ship model, which many of the ship models, if you go into the AGO and look at the collection, there are so many stories in those ships that just don't, how do we get them out? So we decided this ship would be a good idea. Wooden ships in those days didn't last long. They weren't seaworthy for long. This actually was destroyed in 1810, having launched in 1775. But before it died, it became a hospital ship. It became, I think, at one point, a church ship. And then it ended up as a prison hulk. So it was all the masts and the guns and so on were taken off it. And it was floated in the Medway near Chatham in Kent to house prisoners of war. Because the Napoleonic Wars were going on, there were a lot of prisoners of war. Britain used to ship prisoners of war to the States, to America. Couldn't do that anymore because, they'd lost the battle there. So this became an absolute hellish place to go as a prisoner, and we decided that was the ship we wanted to make stories about.
Can we do an awesome, let's say product or application, what do we call these days, experience that actually does the job and, brings you the quality of a museum exhibit that would be a large exhibit with all of the research and everything. But so that's the serious aspect, but obviously because you're in VR, right? What does VR bring into that? And then how can we make it so that it's actually interesting for everybody? So this came to me because I'm kind of like revolted sometimes watching, a lot of movies, like even big screen movies. I'm watching, for example, Oppenheimer and things like that. And I want to learn stuff. I want to learn things, and I'm like this full-on separation between entertainment and cinema entertainment and then knowledge, and like this is a documentary, and that's a movie, okay? And it's like, you just can't learn anything into a movie. I don't understand. Anyway, so that kind of drove me nuts. And I thought, you know what, like, I feel we need like stuff that's like just the whole in one thing. You can get in it, you can learn things, but you can have a fantastic experience because I believe that I like to learn all the time in my personal life. So how to achieve this is try to give it a form of product that reaches all these goals, which is it goes as serious as a museum could do. And we'll show you a little bit, after why and all the details that go into it, right? And then at some point also as serious and good as VR could do it. You imagine yourself, this is a concept, right? Okay, what if we could be into these chip models or these incredible models, but, in VR and in there? This goes through passing with a bunch of research. So we're not going to get you through that a lot, but I want to say, in this era, there's a lot of actors, like for example, Miro, the application, I have to say I owe an enormous amount to this freaking thing. These are our boards of research and with all the documentation. Weekly, we work with researchers and, our 3D team always, asks them for information. And so you get things like this, which are the floor plans, right, of the ship itself, the engineering floor plans at the time. You get like Miro boards. I'm talking about infinite canvas boards, that everybody has access to, and people add information. Those are like, I don't know, maybe we have like the equivalence of like 20 feet of boards if you had a real wall, right, in your company or in your studio, right? And so this is really, really fantastic. It's really useful. Sorry, I'm not just talking about VR today, but that's just one thing I wanted to pass through and recognize and be thankful for.
I want to say two things here, Priam. One, it was really important that we were archivally correct, absolutely correct. So anything we were showing in the ship had to be how it was. The grain of the wood, I could give you many examples. And also, I love the old technology because those plans were made for the ship that was finished in 1775, were made without technology. So I always think, well, we've progressed, but have we? Because we couldn't do that now without the assistance of computers and so on.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. So the application itself. We're going to go through a few features just to show you, how it's structured, so you get an idea. So obviously, this is a lobby that has the real models. They're all scanned, all photogrammetried, and this is Unreal, and this is the VR lobby. Okay, so to get everybody, all users in the world, so we're talking about big audience, anyone, right? You want to get them into the field. This is going to be museum-grade content, right? And so they have the historical artifacts, making of videos, all that stuff, like if you were in a real museum. Okay, so you can inspect the models at the full, resolution grade. Then after that, so this is an example. After that, basically, you're actually going to get to go inside the ship itself, which was reconstituted for the last 3 years with the researchers, all the materials, and the 3D team. And then we have, obviously, big features like, a narrator that you can follow on and will take you along. So this little box here, right? And this is actually her voice. And it'll just go around all the ship, and you can pause it, you can play it, and it'll just take you through as a linear visit. But, you also have a no interface option, so you can actually turn off, every information, like an information layer, basically, and you could just go through free roaming inside the whole ship as well. So you have this experiential learning that, she loves to talk about. I'm just going to keep going, okay? Then after that, so you can see.
It was interesting, Priam, when we were testing it at the AGO, lots of people actually chose to wander through freely first and then come back and listen to the narration and read things and pick up things.
Yeah, so UI, no UI, as you can see, right? Flip-flop, okay? Then after that, obviously, a bunch of information. All the research is also inside this information layer. So you're really in a show here. You have a lot of precision. And then just to give you an idea through it, okay, it's fast, but okay, so you walk through the ship. I'm just going to cut to the chase. You can even actually grab a model inside the workshop where basically the woodworkers, where the prisoners were actually building their ships out of bones and hairs and stuff like that. You can use the real light to actually look at the model and inspect the model as well. So this is all thanks to Unreal, basically.
And this is a ship model that was made by prisoners on a prison hull.
That's a prisoner ship.
That we actually have at the AGO in the collection.
Yeah. So you're in context, and then, there's kind of like this funny loop of like inside the context. And so here we go. Next.
We also had sound effects. There was a track of sound effects, which was incredible. And if somebody was talking earlier about smells, if we could have had the smells here, if you could imagine, a whole bunch of prisoners locked under the decks, that would have been amazing. So, we had many sounds. We had some very good fart sounds and vomiting sounds. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is, it's stunk. You can imagine how it stinks when you're like 300 people in those things. It's a rotting ship, right? So anyway, so then just quick thing about the tech. So just as much more about, Unreal came up, with this nanite features, as we all, or most of us know, which is you can put as high resolution meshes, and models as you want. Okay, so this is incredible, especially for the museum context, because you have research grade models that you can actually peruse at. So this is a CT scan right there. So it's X-ray scan. It goes through the whole thing like in a hospital brain scan, right? And so this is a massive model, okay? I don't know anymore, but like it's probably 30 million polygons. And then, so what you can do, because, you know, this is a research work, and IGO has put all the research on the web as well, accessible as a collateral material.
Yeah, we have videos in the VR experience that are on the website, and also the narration is there.
Yeah.
You know, for people who don't want to use VR, and for various other people who need access in different ways. So the website is quite thorough in its showing our research.
So again, reiterating, this is on Steam. We're in the phase where we're going to start testing multiplayer. So just to keep you in the, you know, in the touch of like the whole brief of the project, was not just do a VR application for a museum that stops at that, but you know what you do in museums, you get to go roam free or take guided visits. Well, guess what? The brief is that, you know, hopefully at some point you can, you know, you could, this was made for having a guide from AGO in VR. Okay, so you would book your slot on the website in advance, all right? And you could be anywhere in the world, and you would have a guided visit. You show up in VR in that room with your code, and suddenly you're with a group of people, and you're gonna take a visit with a real AGO guide inside the content, right? So it's kind of cool, I think. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.